Everybody, Andy here again, day 31. And first things first, I should put the daily figures down there from yesterday. Fairly similar, really. 638 new deaths recorded in hospitals. And so that brings the total to 18,738. And I'll talk about the albums in a bit. Well, I just thought sort of theme for the day, you know, there's that we have that Where's Wally thing, and he called it, I think it's in America, they call it something else. I can't remember what it is, but I think at the moment in Britain we're all saying Where's Boris. That's what we should have a new game, because yes, I know he was ill and I'm sure he's recuperating, but you know, at times like this, a country needs a leader, and we don't appear to have one. We seem to have a vacuum at the moment, and I understand he did make a phone call with President Trump the other day. Let's get your priorities right, mate. And so anyway, hopefully he will come back, because at the moment we're in a real limbo and lots of things going on, which I'm not going to talk about today. I'll talk about something that's a bit more interesting, actually. Because, you know, we talk about COVID-19. Yesterday's video wasn't exactly the most joyous one, and so I thought I'd talk about something that's a little bit better. All those nice things that we can do in this time, for those of us who've got the time to indulge ourselves in various types of entertainment. As I was saying yesterday about culture sort of going out the window in lots of ways, because we can't go and see art in any form, live theatre, gigs, even exhibitions and things like that. You can't do that now, but other things have come into their own. I will mention that in a minute, but the daily album yesterday. Well, actually, I had two albums yesterday, and these are the two albums. Look, I put them close together. Whether you can see what they are, they're both by the band Fleetwood Mac. And hang on, this mirror image thing, I'm getting it. It's not good, is it? I think I've got used to it by now. This one is an album called Then Play On, which came out in 1969. This is the old Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green and the Blues. That sort of side of them. A great band, loved it. And it's a really good album as well. And tacked on the end of this are the songs, their singles, Oh Well and Green Manalishi. But that came out in 69, as I said. This one, still Fleetwood Mac, and there's Mick Fleetwood on the cover, Fleetwood Mac, and the other Mac, McVie, the bass player, which is where the name comes from, Fleetwood Mac. Just in case you're wondering, which is why they managed to keep the name when Peter Green left. This came out in 1977. Everybody knows that album, but strangely enough, I only got around to buying that album a few years ago, and I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've heard the whole album and played it yesterday. I was just going to play Then Play On anyway, because I love that album. Listened to it not that long ago, actually, and it's been remastered and everything like that. But the contrast between that, as you can imagine, and most of us will know Rumours, will know most of the songs on Rumours, if not all of the songs on Rumours. There's a couple on there that I think, not quite so sure about. There's one called Oh Daddy, which doesn't really get me at all, but it's got some great. I mean, we know all the big ones, and The Chain is on there as well, which is obviously taken on a whole new meaning in the UK because they use it for Formula One motor racing. Remember that? But listening to that on the headphones last night, you hear more in that. It's such a well produced and put together song anyway, but you listen to it on headphones, you know, with no other distractions, and you can hear so much more going on in that particular song. But as I said, I've been listening to albums a lot recently, and that sort of brought it home as to how you can indulge yourself. But ironically, the Then Play On album, I was just looking at it just as I was about to put it on, because I couldn't remember what the year was of the album. So I was looking through the sleeve notes inside, the little notes that they've got, liner notes, and I realised that the title of the album, Then Play On, comes from the Shakespeare play. You know, if music be the food of love, then play on. And great, that's Shakespeare's birthday yesterday. And just at that same time that I was doing that, Julie was settling down to watch Twelfth Night from the National Theatre live streamed live. And where does Then Play On come from? That particular catchphrase, not catchphrase, but that particular phrase comes from Twelfth Night. Serendipity, or call it what you want. But another thing, actually, that Julie's been watching things like that. Last week she watched an Andrew Lloyd Webber, I think it was Phantom of the Opera. Tonight she's watching something from the Royal Ballet. So although you can't get your culture in other ways, you certainly can in a different format now. And a lot of places are putting these things up for free. I mean, the National Theatre, and I think that Andrew Lloyd Webber one last week, I can't remember who was putting that on, but they asked for donations, which is good, and I'm sure the Royal Ballet one tonight. But there are so many of them out there on YouTube, or you just check their websites and things like that. I know I've subscribed to them on YouTube now, the National Theatre. They've got so many different productions going on, and some of them are only available for 48 hours or something like that. but well worth it. And so you can indulge yourself, as Julie calls it, feeding her soul, because we all need a little bit at the moment, don't we? And also, there's so much other things going on that you haven't got to do any learning or anything. I know I saw a post yesterday about somewhere in Egypt they put like a virtual tour of Ramesses II or Ramesses III's tomb in the Valley of the Kings, and having been there, that's well worth having a look at. And I know so many art galleries and museums have put their collections online, and you can do virtual tours of amazing buildings across the world. So you can still feed your soul, you can still get involved with that culture and indulge yourself a little bit while you're maybe wallowing in misery in other ways, especially the way the news is. Well, I mean, the book I'd said before, I was reading the Michael Palin book, but I got to the end of 1 year, and then this book arrived. Ready Player One. What's the guy's name? Thomas Logan. If you're watching this, Thomas, because he mentioned on a one of my videos before, and I was talking about music or talking about books, and he recommended that, and I thought, oh, let's have a look. That sounds interesting. So I found it secondhand online and got it delivered. One of those things that you can do now, and it's got a musical theme. Although it's set in the future, I'm not a huge one for sort of science fiction stuff. Although there are some science fiction books up there. Arthur C. Clarke is a favourite author of mine, but one of the reasons I like him is because his stuff you can actually relate to. I'm not very keen on the science fantasy sort of thing, but this is set in the future, in the relatively near future of 2040 or 2045, but it harks back to the 80s. I won't tell you the story because I've only read a couple of chapters, but looks really good. Thank you, Thomas. And also, I will let you know what it was like when I get to the end of it. But it's encouraging so far. So don't despair too much. There's still plenty out there that you can do in these sort of trying and worrying times, and you can escape into art, and you can escape into culture and books and music and all that type of thing, and take your mind off of things for a little bit. Even if you've been working hard, you might need to de-stress, and that's a great way of doing that, indulging that and feeding your soul. I think we all need to have our soul fed just a little bit at the moment. Anyway, stay strong, stay safe, stay at home, and hopefully I shall speak to you tomorrow. Goodbye.